The rise of women's football is one of the most incredible stories in sports history. Imagine a time when women were banned from playing games entirely, their passion for the game stifled by societal norms and outright prohibitions. It was a struggle for recognition, a battle fought on and off the pitch. But from those dark days emerged a powerful movement. Against all odds, these trailblazing women persevered, defying expectations and breaking barriers. Fast forward to today, and the women's game has exploded onto the global stage with electrifying World Cups, record-breaking crowds, and superstars like Rapinoe and Alex Morgan inspiring millions. Women's football is not just a sport, it's a testament to resilience, courage, and the unyielding spirit of women everywhere. From the shadows of obscurity to the bright lights of sold-out stadiums, this is more than a game. It's a revolution. The first recorded women's football match actually took place way back in 1895 in England. Early women's matches drew significant crowds, indicating a strong interest in the sport. No surprises there, and yet history for women would really take a turn for the worst. On December 5, 1921, the FA officially banned women from playing on its member club's grounds. The statement from the FA read, "The council feel impelled to express their strong opinion that the game of football is quite unsuitable for females and ought not to be encouraged." The early 20th century was marked by deeply ingrained patriarchal views. Many believed that football was a man's sport and that it was inappropriate for women to participate. There was a pervasive belief that physical exertion and competitive sports were unsuitable for women and could harm their health. Also, the popularity of women's matches, sometimes drawing larger crowds than men's games, was seen as a threat to the male-dominated football establishment. The FA may have felt that women's football was becoming too successful and feared it would overshadow the men's game. And so, for reasons like this and the general way of life over a century ago, women's football was thrown to the wayside by the FA and left for dead. The ban severely restricted the development of women's football. Without access to quality pitches and facilities, the women's game was forced to the margins, played on less reputable grounds and with fewer resources. Many women's teams disbanded, and the momentum that had been building was significantly stunted. It wasn't until 1971 that the FA lifted the ban in response to increasing pressure and the growing women's liberation movement. This change allowed for the re-establishment and growth of women's football leagues, leading to the eventual formation of professional leagues and international tournaments. Women footballers and their supporters had organised campaigns and protests to raise awareness about the unfair ban. These efforts aimed to draw public attention to the issue and put pressure on the FA to reconsider its stance. As well as that, women continued to play football informally, dancing in the face of the FA rules, readying themselves to be on top of the football world again one day. Local communities and smaller clubs supported women's teams by providing facilities and organising local tournaments. This local-level support helped sustain the women's game and build a foundation for future growth. The rise of women's football in other countries, where the sport was more accepted, provided a stark contrast to the situation in England. Success stories from places like Italy and the United States, where women's football was gaining traction, embarrassed the FA and showed that the ban was outdated and out of step with international trends. The press was also influenced by key figures that helped share the women's football cause across the media. And let's not forget, there were big things happening in the world that helped this movement, not least the women's liberation movement of the 60s and 70s. In 1969, the Women's Football Association, WFA, was formed to govern women's football in England. High-profile women's matches, such as the game between England and France at Greenock back in 1972 drew significant crowds and media attention, and growth began to spiral once again. Now, look how far we have come. The total attendance for the Women's World Cup 1991 tournament was around 510,000 across all matches. By 2015, that number rose, and at the Canadian edition of the tournament, there were over 1.3 million spectators in attendance. The 2015 tournament also achieved significant viewership milestones, with over 750 million viewers globally. The final between the USA and Japan was watched by approximately 25.4 million viewers in the United States alone, making it the most watched soccer match in US history at that time, regardless of gender. Then, in 2019, FIFA reported that the total television audience reached 1.12 billion viewers across all platforms. The final between the USA and the Netherlands was watched live by an estimated 260 million people, making it one of the most watched events in women's sports history. This just goes to show that year on year, women's football is growing at a rapid rate. And it is a big thanks to certain heroes and trailblazers of the game. Plenty off the pitch rallied and raged to get the women's game back to where it needs to be. And now that we are getting there, some of the women's football stars of the field are inspiring millions of youngsters and growing the sport with their sensational talent and flair. Marta of Brazil is regarded as one of the greatest female footballers of all time. The Brazilian forward Marta has won numerous accolades, including the FIFA World Player of the Year award multiple times. Her skill and charisma have inspired many young girls to pursue the sport. Lily Parr was a prolific goalscorer for the Dick Kerr ladies team in the early 20th century. Despite the FA ban, her talent and popularity helped keep interest in women's football alive. Michelle Akers was instrumental in the early successes of the US women's national team. Her powerful play and leadership contributed significantly to the team's dominance in the 1990s. Since then, the likes of Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe have become the top figures in the USWNT, championing their causes along the way, with Rapinoe being a particular advocate for LGBTQ+ rights. A key figure in the formation of the Women's Football Association in 1969, Patricia Gregory worked tirelessly to organise women's football in England and push for the lifting of the FA ban. Other figures like Hope Powell and now Leah Williamson have kept the ball rolling, and now a sold-out Wembley has seen England win a major trophy. A women's one, that is. The future is now. Women's football is not just here to stay, but here to grow. Global support for women's sports has increased so much, and football has helped this dramatically. Improved media coverage, marketing and sponsorship deals have been huge for women's football and everyone involved. It has helped the growth and visibility of the sport, the number of players at the grassroots level, and the amount of quality at the top of the professional game. Not many men have faced the challenge of young girls just trying to break into professional sports over the last century. For many of them, it was never even an option. But now the world can see just how special the women's game is. The 2023 Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand was huge, and the next tournament in 2027 will be even greater still.